The National Curriculum Framework, NCF, outlines the learning experiences and competencies children should develop. Sri Satya Sai Vidya Vahini provides educational content aligned with the NEP and the NCF, aiming to deliver school curriculum in a way that is engaging and promotes human values. So in short, NEP provides the why and the what of education, NCF details the how, and SSSVV is paving a unique way to implement the NCF's approach. For better understanding of SSSVV, NEP, NCF, and how they all align together, we have a video presentation by Padma Shri Professor M.K. Sridhar, who, during his illustrious and exemplary career, has impacted the lives of many educators and students.
Namaskar to all of you. Today, all of us are participating in the National Education Summit organized by Sri Satya Sai Vidya Vahini on a very, very interesting theme, integral to inclusion. I think the very theme of the conference speaks volumes about the organizers and the delegates. Friends, brothers and sisters, all those who have gathered here on the dais, off the dais, what I just would like to say is, I had an interaction with the volunteers of this Sri Satya Sai Vidya Vahini a few months back. And from that interaction, I could make out the love, passion, and the dedication with which all these volunteers are working on their own for the cause of inclusive education, which will finally result in inclusive integral education. In this context, when all of us have gathered, I would like to share with you a couple of perspectives which are very critical for taking this integral education to inclusive education. Let me tell you at the beginning, no integral education will be successful, will be complete without inclusive education. At the same time, inclusive education will not serve the purpose until it comes out of that integral education. Even the Disabled Act of 2006, it speaks about an education system which is integrative and inclusive. So therefore, what I would like to share today, certain perspectives of National Education Policy 2020, as well as the National Curriculum Framework of 2023, based on which integral education is being expanded to inclusive education. So the policy has made a very significant dimension which is accepted by Government of India and many of the state governments, and lot of things are happening nowadays. In fact, there is a tremendous effort to bring out the textbooks on this entire thing. So the policy has said, made a very important deviation from the past, that generally in school education, we always used to call it as primary, pre-primary, secondary, etc. But the grades were taken very important. But in all this, while doing this classification of primary, pre-primary, secondary, etc., the age of the student was the consideration. Even if you say you want to get into a school, age was the basis. Why age was taken as a very important component? Because the child development happens over a period of time. Let me tell you, as and when the age progresses, there will be physical development. Not only physical, cognitive development, and also socio-emotional development, also ethical development. So when you are educating a child, you are not educating a child in isolation. You are educating the child, you are making the child to learn in the context of physical, cognitive, socio-emotional, and ethical development of the child. When you are basically aware of this kind of development that happens to the child over a period of years, we should always know that no development will happen sudden. Whether it is physical, cognitive, anything, will not happen sudden. It will take its own time. So therefore, as and when the child is progressing, it is getting matured. So as and when it is getting matured, what we are trying to do is, even the kind of education that we give, whether it is the curriculum, whether it is contents, the method, the pedagogy of teaching, the assessment of learning, the kind of school culture, the role of the teacher, all these things cannot and should not remain same. If they remain same, then you are not contributing to the development of the child. Taking this cue, taking this basic premise, the National Education Policy said the 15 years of the schooling of a child, starting from the age 3 to 18, is classified into 4 stages. It is called 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. The first 5 years foundation, then next 3 years, and then next 3 years is middle, and then lastly, the last 4 years of 15 years will be secondary education. That is 9, 10, 11, 12 standards or grades. When this is being made, the entire content, the pedagogy, the entire assessment, and the school culture, the teaching style of the teacher, everything cannot be same. It has to be the development appropriate. The kind of development happens in a range of years. Your entire education input and learning efforts must be kept in view. So therefore, this entire thing of 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 was part of the National Education Policy, and subsequently in 2023, when the National Curriculum Framework came out, that has given a complete shape how the curriculum development has to happen. What is a framework? The policy talks about the basic principle, but whereas the framework talks about the entire operational details. So therefore, your entire linkage to the entire school education is so integral. You are addressing all dimensions of the personality of the child, including the digital literacy. So when you are talking of this entire integral system, it is not enough if it is only integral. All of us are aware, in our own country, in all our schools, in all areas, there is a significant number of children having different kinds of disabilities. Please don't think that a learning disability is only from disability of some kind or other. Learning disability can also be among the normal people who are not so-called disabled. So therefore, when these children come and become part of the class, part of the school, it is very, very important that the teacher and the school has to make that entire education very, very inclusive. If you have to make education inclusive, the National Curriculum Framework talks about certain basic principles. Let me only quote a couple of ones for our understanding. See, for example, one basic principle of this NCF is every child is capable of learning. You cannot assume and presume that a child cannot learn. It may not learn in the same pace, in the same way, the same dimension that you may think, but the child will always learn. The another important principle on which this inclusion has to happen, any kind of efforts for inclusion of the children has to be an integral part of school culture. If the entire culture of the school is inclusive, it cannot build an inclusive culture. See, only one teacher or in one subject or in some classrooms or for some standards, if it is inclusive, it will not serve the purpose. See, let me also tell you, inclusive education is not necessarily for those grades where there are such children are there. Even if such children are not there, we need to make it very, very inclusive. So therefore, friends, very, very important in case of inclusive education is that unless you understand the basic principles of inclusivity, you cannot deliver inclusive education. And if you can't deliver inclusive education, your education is not integral. See, what I am trying to say, friends, is that if you want to make inclusive education for the sake of integral education, it is not only important to understand the macro principles, but it is also important and critical to understand the micro situations of the child and the class and the school and things like that. So what is very, very critical at the end of the day is your heart. Not just your mind, not just your brain, not just your knowledge, but your heart. Whether your heart beats for that child, that is very, very critical. And it is that beating of heart which will make inclusive education integral and integral education inclusive. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. I wish the Education Summit all success. Namaskar.
My sincere gratitude to Padma Shri Professor M.K. Sridhar for taking out time to sharing his insights with all of us here and giving that clarity for us to proceed forward.